In this video, we're going to discuss cleaning up our code. Right now, we're at first draft. Everything looks good, but there's some problems here. If you'll notice, there's all uppercase here, where everything else is lowercase. That's inconsistent. And notice that the reset button is active when there's nothing been touched. So if something has been touched and I leave it, I expect the reset button to be active, but not yet. So let's get into this and let's clean this up. To begin with, let's take care of the reset button. So we're going to set it disabled until it is touched. So isTouched is a method that I've got here, and so that checks to see if it's touched. So that was a quick and easy one. Let's save that and let's look at the web. Just make sure that that works, and that does. So we're good on that. Now let's take a look at the state code. Why is this all uppercase here? The rest of them are all lowercase. Let's take a look at the code here and see what's going on. Okay, we see that the class is set to uppercase, and if we go into uppercase, that's form input, and it's just setting it to uppercase. Let's see if we can do a little better on that. Let's go back and look at the web here. Let's inspect this and find out what is going on. Why is that happening? If we notice here, it says ng touched, pristine, and invalid. Let's clear this to get rid of all that. This is what the classes would be when it is not touched and it's pristine, and we want it to be lowercase. Now, here's our require. This is the label. Up here is the class. Okay. Now let's go look at the code. Okay. In the code, the class is set to uppercase. Uppercase, we know, is going to set it the other way. Let's try something. Let's insert ng class. This is going to apply uppercase to class only, we got to delete this part, only when the state control value length is greater than 0. Save that. Let's go back to the web. We can close this. Now we see that it says, it's got the text in lowercase here. If I type in O, okay, this is good. M, let's try Maine, that works. Michigan, that works, it's green. California. So notice a couple things here. It's lowercase here, but I'm going to press a lowercase I. It comes out uppercase. If I do IL for Illinois, it says it's good. This is something, this part is now fixed. So let's reset that. The reset's not working. Let's find out what's going on there. Okay, we've got an error. Let me explain how to debug this. And it wasn't, I had to take some time off camera to figure it out. So let me explain it to you here. So if you touch every field here, that one doesn't matter. It doesn't have a Now notice that this works right now. This is a side effect. So this is working right now and everything here, but as soon as I hit this reset, this one and these will still be here, but the rest will be reset, watch. Okay, and this will no longer function. So if I go up here, when I click on it, you see the debug mode come in. When I click on it, so this is not working correctly. What this tells me is there's something in here that's throwing an exception, and I'm not handling any exceptions. So most of the time when we write Angular code, we don't put try-catch in there. In Java, we do a lot of try-catch. In Angular, you can also do try-catch in the TypeScript, but we don't always do that. So let me explain how I figured this out. Let's go look at the code. The issue where the problem is it's around this guy here. So the first thing I did is I commented this out, just this part. So I comment that out. Let's go back to the web, and I had to go back in editor and save that. So if I touch these, now if you notice, the state is not there. Now this works when I hit reset. So state code is missing. If I hit reset, everything clears and this still works. Let's go back to the code. And let's bring in all of this again. To be honest, I was not sure how I was going to figure this one out. But using this process is how I went through and figured out what was going on. So the next thing I did is I commented out this part right here. That's just the input. I'm saving it. Let's go back to the web. You can see all the fields are there. And this still works. I'm going to hit reset. This still works. And these all cleared. All right. Let's go back to the code. It's something in here. What broke it is when I added this piece here. Before we had uppercase right in here and it was fine. So let's try putting that back the way it was. Let's remove this. There's uppercase, it's back in there. I'm going to save this. Let's go back to the web. Now if we go here, we touch this, touch this, touch this, touch this. So notice it still works. I'm going to touch a couple of these. And touch all of them, might as well. And when I reset, it all goes back. This still works. These all cleared. So that's good. So that tells me, let's go back to the code. That tells me that whatever I did here was the cause. Let's undo this change. And let's go back and see what happens. So this is the only difference right now. We know there's something in here that's breaking. So we're going to save that. Let's go back to the web. And I'm going to touch city, just so you can see above. Touch state code and zip code. At this point, this works. If I hit reset, this is the only one that'll clear. These two will stay here. And I will explain that in just a moment here. So this no longer works. If we go up here, you'll see debug mode come and go every time I click that. Let's go back to the code. All right. Now, in the code, this gets a reference to the state control. This gets the value on the state control. And this is the length of the value of the state control. It has to be greater than 0, which means it could be null. And if it's null, let's put a question mark there. If value is null, this would throw an exception. But now that I do that, it's I can't figure out the right word, but it's a null coalescing. I don't understand exactly, but if you look up null coalescing, it's how you handle, instead of, I could put a test here to say, if state control dot value exists, is not null, then, and state control value, let me actually just put it in here. This will do, this is the long form. And let's verify that this is going to work. Let's go back to the web. So if I touch before, I touch state control or state code, and I do a reset, you see it works. Okay, this works. Nothing has been affected. Let's go back to the code again. So this test showed me that this was null. And that's why that's having an error, but that's a lot of code. So I want to get rid of that. And I'm going to put a question mark before the period, after the word value. And I'm going to save that. Let's go back to the web. And we see that this is working. I'm going to touch it before, touch it after, or touch the, and when I do a reset, it will work this time. And this is still working. The thing that really threw me for a loop here is the fact that this stopped working. The next thing we want to do is we want to see what we can reduce in this code. In other words, what is duplicated code? What we do know is this right here is duplicated. The only difference is this is first name control and this is last name control. Let's close that window so we can see more. We don't have, there's no error on here that we have. We don't have a requirement. We could put birth date error in there, but that one's just in there to show that we don't really have a required field. So here we have the ng class. What this right here does is it puts the little red asterisk. I don't know if you can see it, but there is an asterisk right there. You can see it. So there's a little red asterisk there. Let's go back to the code. Now in our code, how can we reduce this? It's only going to reduce one line per label, but it will also reduce the need to go to every one of these by consolidating this into a method. Let me explain how that's done. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to create a method. Form control in there. Is or has usually returns a Boolean. And so we want to return a Boolean. Get in front of that is not helping. Let's take it out. Has error messages. Okay, this hasn't gotten rid of many lines of code, but what it has done is made it easier, so if I need to change the order of that, I just change it here, which I have done twice already, and I had to touch every one of those. So if I had done this way in the beginning, I wouldn't have to go through each one. Usually I like to put my get up above here. Right now I'm gonna just leave them down here because I've done it so often. Alright, so on my state codes, notice that I put an I at the end there, so it says ignore case, so I don't have to have an upper and lower case of each of those. Allows a person to enter lowercase, which is usually what they're going to be doing, and then it would work. So these are regular expressions here. Regular expressions is something that is important that you learn. It'll set you apart from most developers if you know regular expressions, because most developers don't bother with it. It's very powerful. Well, let's go back to the web. Let's save this. And let's make sure, let's increase that just a little bit so you can see it better. And we touch these. Now these have been converted to prime-ng controls now. So if I touch these, this still works. There's the phone control down there. If I do a reset, okay, so that works. I forgot to record the refactoring of the reactive error. So in here, what I've done is I've moved all of the error message, all the code here, removed all the code from this and put it into reactive error component, which is this guy right here. PRB, reactive error. And if you look here, here's PRB, reactive error. And this has to have a value accessor. And this has to implement control value accessor, and it pulls in, these are because of these fields, properties, and then these methods right here are because of control value accessor. They have to be added. These got copied or got moved out of here. So they were in here and now they were just above this get area here. Now it's over in here. The other thing that's different is we're inputting the form control. If you look here, here's the form control, and it's zip control. So zip control, if you remember, does it return, this is a get that returns the entry form, get address zip. Here's address state. So this is like a shorthand. And so that works in there. That's what I forgot to record. Let's talk about duplicated code. We've got duplicated code in both reactive error component and reactive entry component. The reason that is we need these patterns in both places. Well, let's change that and move it into a single place. So as you can see over here, I've been working on refactoring to reduce the amount that we have in here. So we still have 3 tags. I'd like to get it down to 1 tag and get rid of this. I'd like to get rid of all of this with just a single tag, if we can do that. And that's what I'm working on. But in the meantime, we have duplicated code. So let's get that moved into a single place. And I'm going to do that in the core, in the reactive forms. And I'm going to call this reactive pattern. Still going to put it in the forms for now. I can move it. Now I just said new file. I didn't say to use a schematic. So I'm not creating an Angular object per se, but I am creating a TS file. So we'll see what we can do here. Reactive. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and we're going to say extend. Extends reactive patterns. Gonna copy that. Go over here and do the same thing. And we're going to remove that. And we're going to remove this. Okay, now let's go back to the web and make sure that these work. That one's working. Okay, I noticed something here. So if we go in here, it doesn't show it unless I click out. And then when I go back, it will show it. Let's see if the same thing happens here. Yes, okay. Just want to make sure it's consistent. Okay. At this point, we've removed duplicate code except for refactoring this, which I will do another video on because I'm having some difficulty understanding how it's done. As soon as I figure that out, I will do a video and show you how it's done. I hope this video has helped you. Please like and subscribe, and we will continue to make more videos. Thank you.